Podcast Talk. Learn English naturally.
I can understand English, but I can't speak.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to English Podcast Hub. I'm John.
And I'm Daniela. Welcome to today's episode, which is going to resonate with so many of our listeners.
Today, we're tackling one of the most common frustrations in language learning, being able to understand English perfectly well, but struggling to speak it. If you can watch movies without subtitles, understand podcasts, read articles easily, but freeze up when someone asks you a question, this episode is for you.
This is such a widespread problem. I've met countless people who say, I understand everything, but when I try to speak, nothing comes out. Or, I know what I want to say in my head, but I can't say it out loud.
And it's incredibly frustrating because you feel like you should be able to speak. You have the knowledge, you understand the language, so why can't you produce it?
Exactly. So today, we're going to explain why this happens. And more importantly, we're going to give you practical strategies to bridge this gap between understanding and speaking. But before we start, don't forget to subscribe, like the video, turn on notifications, and comment below.
Let's start with the why. Daniela, why is there such a big gap between receptive skills, listening and reading, and productive skills, speaking and writing?
Great question. The fundamental reason is that these skills use different mental processes. When you're listening or reading, you're recognizing patterns that are already there. Your brain just needs to decode and comprehend the message.
But when you're speaking, you're creating something from scratch. You need to access vocabulary, construct grammar, pronounce words correctly, and do all of this in real time while thinking about what you want to say.
Exactly. It's the difference between recognizing someone's face and drawing that face from memory. Recognition is much easier than production.
That's a perfect analogy. So this gap is actually completely normal. It's not a sign that something is wrong with you or that you're bad at languages.
Absolutely not. Every language learner goes through this phase. The question is how to move beyond it.
Let's talk about the concept of passive vocabulary versus active vocabulary. This is crucial for understanding this problem.
Passive vocabulary is all the words you recognize and understand when you hear or read them. Active vocabulary is the words you can actually use when you speak or write.
And your passive vocabulary is always much larger than your active one, even in your native language. There are words you understand perfectly when you read them, but you'd never use them in conversation.
Right. So the challenge is converting passive vocabulary into active vocabulary. And the same applies to grammar structures, phrases, and expressions.
So how do we make this conversion? What's the process?
The key is output practice. You need to actively produce the language, not just consume it. This is where many learners go wrong. They spend all their time listening and reading, which are valuable, but they never practice speaking.
It's like learning to swim by watching swimming videos. You can understand the technique perfectly, but until you get in the water and practice, you won't be able to swim.
Perfect analogy. And just like swimming, speaking requires muscle memory. Your mouth, tongue, and vocal cords need to practice forming English sounds and words.
Let's talk about the psychological barriers that prevent people from speaking, because I think this is huge. Even when people have opportunities to speak, they hold back.
Fear is the biggest barrier. Fear of making mistakes, fear of sounding stupid, fear of being judged, fear of not being understood.
And this fear creates a vicious cycle. Because you're afraid to speak, you don't practice speaking. Because you don't practice, you don't improve. Because you don't improve, you become more afraid.
Exactly. So breaking this cycle requires courage. You have to be willing to make mistakes, to sound imperfect, to struggle through conversations.
And here's something important to understand. Native speakers are generally very forgiving of language learners. Most people appreciate the effort you're making and want to help you succeed.
That's so true. I've never met a native English speaker who mocked someone for trying to speak English. Usually, they're impressed and supportive.
So the judgment we fear is often in our own heads, not in reality. We're our own harshest critics.
Now let's talk about perfectionism, because this is another major barrier.
Many learners think they need to speak perfectly or not speak at all.
But perfection is impossible, even for native speakers. We make grammatical errors, we search for words, we say and We sometimes can't express exactly what we mean.
Right. Communication is about conveying meaning, not about perfect grammar. If someone understands your message, you've succeeded, even if your sentence wasn't grammatically perfect.
I always tell learners, it's better to speak imperfectly than not to speak at all. Every time you speak, you're learning and improving.
Absolutely. Now, let's get practical. What are specific techniques that people can use to start speaking more?
First, practice speaking alone. This removes the pressure of having an audience.
You can talk to yourself about anything, describe your day, narrate what you're doing, express your opinions on topics you care about.
I know this sounds strange, but it's incredibly effective. You can practice in the shower, while cooking, during your commute. No one's listening, so you can make all the mistakes you want.
Another technique is shadowing. Listen to native speakers in podcasts, videos, movies, and repeat exactly what they say, trying to match their pronunciation, rhythm, and intonation.
Shadowing is powerful because it trains both your ear and your mouth simultaneously. You're learning how English should sound while practicing producing those sounds.
You can start by pausing and repeating, then progress to speaking simultaneously with the recording. This is challenging, but very effective.
Another great technique is recording yourself. Use your phone to record yourself speaking for just 1 or 2 minutes on any topic.
Then listen back. This gives you objective feedback on your speaking. You'll notice things you didn't realize. Maybe you speak too fast. Maybe certain sounds are unclear. Maybe you pause too much.
And you can track your progress by recording yourself regularly. Compare recordings from 1 month ago to today, and you'll see improvement, which is motivating.
Now let's talk about thinking in English. This is crucial for fluency. Daniela, why is thinking in English important?
When you think in your native language and then translate to English, there's a time lag. You're adding an extra step, which makes you slower and more hesitant.
But when you think directly in English, your speech becomes more fluent and natural. You're not constantly searching for translations.
Right. And the way to develop this skill is through consistent practice. Throughout your day, try to think in English. When you see something, name it in English. When you have a thought, express it in English in your mind.
At first, this feels awkward and slow, but with practice, it becomes more automatic. Your brain creates new neural pathways that allow you to think directly in English.
Now let's discuss the importance of formulaic language, those chunks and phrases that native speakers use repeatedly. Why are these so important for speaking?
Because they reduce the cognitive load. Instead of constructing every sentence word by word, you can use these ready-made phrases, which gives you more mental energy to focus on your message.
Can you give some examples of useful formulaic language?
Sure, phrases like, I think that, in my opinion, to be honest, on the other hand, as far as I know, it seems to me that. These are discourse markers that help structure your speech.
And functional phrases like, let me think about that. What I mean is, how should I put this? If I understand correctly, these buy you time and help manage conversations.
Exactly. Native speakers use these constantly, and they make your speech sound much more natural and fluent, even if you're still searching for the right words for your main point.
Now let's talk about building confidence. What strategies help learners feel more confident speaking?
Start with low-pressure situations. Don't jump into high-stakes conversations or presentations. Begin with patient, supportive conversation partners.
Language exchange partners are ideal for this. They're also language learners, so they understand the struggle. There's mutual empathy and support.
Online tutors are another great option. They're there specifically to help you practice, and they're trained to be patient and encouraging.
And celebrate small wins. Did you successfully order coffee in English? That's an achievement. Did you have a 3-minute conversation? Celebrate that.
These small successes build confidence over time. You're proving to yourself that you can communicate in English.
Now let's address the translation habit. Many learners habitually translate everything from their native language. Why is this problematic?
Because languages don't map perfectly onto each other. Idioms don't translate directly. Sentence structures differ. Some concepts exist in one language but not another.
Right. When you translate, you're often creating awkward or unnatural English. It's better to learn how to express ideas directly in English, using English structures and expressions.
How can learners break the translation habit?
Immersion helps. The more you expose yourself to English input, the more you internalize English patterns. Watch English content, read English books, listen to English podcasts.
And when you're practicing speaking, try to think of what an English speaker would say in this situation, rather than translating what you would say in your native language.
Now let's talk about the importance of speaking from day one. Many learners wait until they feel ready to start speaking. Why is this a mistake?
Because you'll never feel completely ready, and by waiting, you're delaying the practice that would actually make you ready.
Right. Even as a complete beginner, you can practice speaking simple sentences. I am John. I like coffee. The weather is nice. These simple utterances are still valuable practice.
And speaking early helps you build the habit. If you wait until you're intermediate to start speaking, it's actually harder because you have more to be self-conscious about.
That's a great point. Beginners can make mistakes without much embarrassment because it's expected, but intermediate learners sometimes feel they should speak better, which creates more pressure.
Now let's discuss the role of grammar in speaking. How much should learners focus on grammar while speaking?
This is tricky. Grammar is important, but if you're constantly monitoring your grammar while speaking, you'll be very slow and hesitant.
Right. There's a difference between learning grammar and using it spontaneously in speech. When you're studying, focus on understanding grammar rules, but when you're speaking, focus on communication.
With practice, correct grammar becomes automatic. You don't have to consciously think about it. But this automaticity only comes from lots of speaking practice, not from studying rules.
So our advice is study grammar during your study time, but during speaking practice, prioritize fluency and communication over grammatical perfection.
Now let's talk about vocabulary acquisition for speaking. How should learners approach vocabulary if their goal is to speak better?
Learn vocabulary in context and immediately practice using it. Don't just memorize definitions from a list. See how the word is used in sentences, then create your own sentences using it.
And practice saying the word out loud multiple times. This helps move it from passive recognition to active recall.
Also, prioritize high-frequency vocabulary and phrases that you'll actually use in conversation, rather than obscure words you might encounter in academic texts but never speak.
Exactly. It's better to know 100 common words really well, meaning you can use them confidently in speech, than to recognize 1,000 rare words that you never use.
Now, let's discuss finding conversation partners and speaking opportunities. What options are available?
Language exchange apps like Tandem, HelloTalk, or Conversation Exchange connect you with native speakers for free. You help them with your language, they help you with English.
Online tutoring platforms like italki, Preply, or Verbling offer affordable one-on-one lessons focused on conversation practice.
And joining English conversation clubs or meetup groups in your city is another option. Many cities have regular language exchange meetups.
And online communities are everywhere. Discord servers, Reddit communities, Facebook groups focused on English learning often have voice chat options.
The key is consistency. Having one conversation per week is much less effective than having short conversations several times per week.
Right. Regular practice is essential for building speaking skills. It's like exercising. You get better with consistent practice over time.
Now let's address the speed issue. Many learners feel they speak too slowly. Is speaking speed important?
First, understand that speaking slowly is not inherently bad. It's much better to speak slowly and clearly than to speak quickly and unclearly.
Right. Native speakers don't judge you for speaking slowly. They judge you based on whether they can understand you and whether you're communicating effectively.
Speed comes naturally with practice. As vocabulary and grammar become more automatic, you naturally speak faster. You don't need to force it.
And even native speakers vary in speaking speed. Some people are naturally fast talkers, others are more measured. There's no single correct speed.
Now let's talk about handling mistakes. How should learners respond when they make speaking mistakes?
First, understand that mistakes are inevitable and valuable. Every mistake is feedback that helps your brain adjust and improve.
When you notice you've made a mistake, you can briefly self-correct. I went yesterday, but then move on. Don't dwell on it or apologize excessively.
Right, over-apologizing actually disrupts the conversation flow and makes you seem less confident. Just make the correction if necessary and continue.
And sometimes it's better not to correct yourself at all. If your meaning was understood, just continue. Constant self-correction makes your speech choppy.
Now let's discuss the intermediate plateau. Many learners reach an intermediate level where they can understand well, but speaking is still difficult. Why does this happen?
At the intermediate level, you have enough vocabulary and grammar to understand most things. But using all that knowledge spontaneously in speech requires different neural pathways.
And at this level, learners often become comfortable with passive learning, watching shows, reading, because it feels rewarding, but they avoid the uncomfortable work of speaking practice.
Breaking through this plateau requires intentional, focused speaking practice. You can't just keep doing what you're already comfortable with.
Right, you need to actively push yourself outside your comfort zone, have longer conversations, discuss more complex topics, practice speaking about things you're not comfortable with.
Now let's talk about pronunciation specifically, because pronunciation anxiety prevents many people from speaking. How important is perfect pronunciation?
Perfect pronunciation is not necessary. Your goal should be intelligible pronunciation, meaning people can understand you clearly.
There are billions of English speakers worldwide, and they all have different accents. Indian English, Nigerian English, Singapore English, Scottish English, they all sound different, and they're all valid.
Your accent is part of your identity. Don't try to eliminate it. Just work on making sure your pronunciation is clear enough to be understood.
Focus on sounds that change meaning, minimal pairs like ship and sheep, beach and bit. Practice those specific sounds that are challenging for speakers of your native language.
And practice word stress and sentence stress. English relies heavily on stress patterns for meaning, and getting these right makes you much easier to understand.
Now, let's discuss energy and enthusiasm in speaking. Why are these important?
When you speak with energy and enthusiasm, you're more engaging and easier to understand. Your intonation is more expressive, which carries meaning.
Many learners speak in a monotone because they're nervous or concentrating hard on grammar, but this makes them harder to understand and less interesting to listen to.
So even if you're nervous, try to inject some energy into your voice. Smile while you speak. It actually affects your tone and makes you sound friendlier and more confident.
Let's talk about using technology to improve speaking. What tools and apps can help?
Speech recognition technology can give you feedback. Many language apps have speaking exercises where you speak and the app evaluates your pronunciation.
AI conversation partners are improving rapidly. Apps like Elsa Speak, Google's Conversation Practice, or ChatGPT Voice Mode can provide judgment-free practice.
And video recording yourself is powerful. Use your phone to record yourself having a conversation or giving a presentation, then watch it back.
You'll notice things about your body language, your facial expressions, your verbal tics that you didn't realize. This awareness helps you improve.
Now let's discuss the importance of listening to improve speaking. How does listening help?
When you listen actively, you're absorbing patterns, pronunciation patterns, grammar patterns, vocabulary usage, intonation patterns. Your brain internalizes these patterns.
But passive listening isn't enough. You need active listening, where you pay attention to how things are said, not just what is said.
Notice the rhythm, the stress patterns, the linking between words, the tone changes. This all feeds into your speaking ability.
And imitate what you hear. When you hear a phrase or expression you like, repeat it out loud multiple times. This helps transfer it from passive recognition to active use.
Now let's talk about specific speaking exercises people can do alone. What would you recommend?
Describe your surroundings. Look around and describe everything you see in detail. There's a blue lamp on the brown table. The lamp has a white lampshade. Next to it is a pile of books.
This builds your ability to describe things spontaneously, which is a fundamental speaking skill.
Tell stories from your life. Start with today I, or yesterday I, or when I was a child, and tell the story out loud.
Practice giving opinions. Pick any topic, movies, politics, food, technology, and express your opinion about it for 2 minutes.
Do this regularly and you'll notice your fluency improving. You'll hesitate less, access vocabulary more quickly, and construct sentences more naturally.
Another exercise is reading aloud. Take any text and read it out loud, focusing on pronunciation and intonation.
This is different from silent reading. It engages your vocal muscles and helps you practice producing English sounds.
Now let's discuss realistic expectations. How quickly can someone bridge the gap between understanding and speaking?
It varies, but with focused daily practice, most people notice significant improvement within a few months. After 6 months of regular speaking practice, you should feel much more confident and fluent.
But this requires genuine speaking practice, not just passive consumption of English content. You need to actually produce language daily.
Right. If you practice speaking for even 15 minutes every day, that's over 90 hours in a year. That makes a big difference.
And remember, it's not linear. You'll have breakthroughs where suddenly things feel easier, and you'll have frustrating days where you feel like you're not improving. That's normal.
The key is consistency. Keep showing up, keep practicing, even when it feels hard.
Now, let's talk about building a sustainable practice routine. How can learners incorporate speaking practice into their daily lives?
Make it a non-negotiable habit, like brushing your teeth. Schedule specific times for speaking practice and protect that time.
Start small. If you commit to 30 minutes but never do it, that doesn't help. But if you commit to 5 minutes and do it every day, that builds momentum.
And integrate English into your existing routines. Think in English during your commute. Describe your cooking process in English. Narrate your workout in English.
Make it fun. If you love cooking, practice describing recipes in English. If you love sports, practice commenting on games in English. Connect it to your interests.
Now, as we approach the end, let's talk about mindset. What mindset helps learners overcome the understanding but not speaking problem?
First, reframe mistakes as learning opportunities rather than failures. Every mistake provides valuable feedback that helps you improve.
Second, focus on progress, not perfection. You don't need to sound like a native speaker. You just need to communicate effectively.
Third, be patient with yourself. This gap between understanding and speaking is normal, and closing it takes time and consistent practice.
Fourth, embrace discomfort. Growth happens outside your comfort zone. If speaking feels uncomfortable, that means you're learning.
And finally, celebrate effort, not just results. Be proud of yourself for trying, for practicing, for putting yourself out there regardless of how well you did.
That's beautiful advice. The fact that you're trying to improve your speaking shows courage and commitment.
Absolutely. Thank you all so much for joining us today on English Breakthrough. We hope this episode has helped you understand why this gap exists and given you concrete strategies to overcome it.
Remember, you can speak English. You just need practice, patience, and the courage to make mistakes. Every conversation, even imperfect ones, moves you forward.
If you found this episode helpful, please subscribe, leave us a review, and share it with other learners who are struggling with the same challenge.
And most importantly, go speak. Start today, even if it's just talking to yourself for 5 minutes. Take that first step.
Until next time, keep learning, keep practicing, and keep speaking.
You've got this.